Good afternoon, students. So welcome to week 8 of our ENGL 101 class. And without further ado, I'm going to start my lecture on research paper and how to avoid plagiarism. So writing a research paper and avoiding plagiarism. In this section, you will learn strategies for handling the more challenging aspects of writing a paper, such as integrating material from your sources, citing information correctly, avoiding any misuse of your sources. The structure of a research paper. Research paper generally follow the same basic structure. An introduction that presents the writer's thesis, a body section that develops the thesis with supporting points and evidence, a conclusion that revisits the thesis and provides additional insights or suggestions for further research. Your writing voice will come across most strongly in your introduction and conclusion as you work to keep your readers interested and establish your thesis. These sections usually do not cite sources at length. In contrast, the body of your paper will cite sources extensively. Writing your introduction. There are several ways in which you can write your introduction, but each of them fulfill the same goals. Your introduction will have a hook to get the reader's attention, 5 background sentences, and then your thesis statement. And then most writers like to begin with one of the following catchy openers: a surprising fact, a thought-provoking question, a brief and attention-getting quote, a brief anecdote that illustrates a larger concept, a connection between your topic and your reader's experience. The next few sentences place the opening so that your introduction should have a hook, 5 background sentences, and a thesis. Writing your conclusion. Some writers prefer to write their conclusions soon after they write their introduction. Other writers prefer to write their conclusion at the end of the paper after having written their body paragraphs. No process is absolutely right or wrong. No matter when you compose the conclusion, it should sum up your main ideas and revisit your thesis. An effective writer might conclude a paper by asking a new question the research inspired, revisiting an anecdote presented earlier, or reminding readers of how the topic relates to their lives. One of the challenges of writing a research paper is successfully integrating your ideas with materials from your sources. Your paper must explain what you think, or it will read like a disconnected string of facts and quotations. However, you also need to support your ideas with research, or else they will seem insubstantial. In the body paragraphs of your paper, you will need to integrate ideas carefully at the paragraph and at the sentence level. You will use topic sentences in your paragraphs to make sure readers understand the main idea of your paragraph. You will include transition words so that you can link your different sentences together. And you will use signal phrases that will signal to the reader that you are about to talk about a source. So at the sentence level, you will need to think carefully about how you introduce, paraphrase, or quoted materials. When you summarize material from a source, you zero in on the main points and restate them concisely in your own words. This technique is appropriate when only the author's major ideas are relevant to your paper, or when you need to simplify complex information into a key few points. Be sure to review the source material as you summarize it. Identify the main idea and restate it as concisely as you can. Check your summary to make sure it is accurate and complete. Paraphrasing sources. When you paraphrase material from a source, you restate the information from an entire sentence or passage in your own words, using your own original sentence structure. A paraphrase differs from a summary in that you focus on restating the ideas, not condensing them. It is important to check your paraphrase against the source material to make sure it is both accurate and original. Inexperienced writers sometimes use the thesaurus method of paraphrasing. They simply rewrite the source material, replacing most of the words with synonyms. Quoting sources directly. Direct quotes can be powerful when used sparingly and with purpose. Quoting directly can sometimes help you make a point in a colorful way. If an author's words are especially vivid or well phrased, quoting them may help you hold your reader's interest. Direct quotations from an interviewee or an eyewitness to an event may help you personalize an issue for readers. And when you analyze primary source documents such as a historical speech, quoting extensively is often necessary to illustrate your points. Less experienced writers, however, overuse direct quotations in a research paper. At best, this reduces the quotation's effectiveness. At worst, it results in a paper that seems haphazardly pasted together from outside sources. So when you use sources, you should only use one source per paragraph so that you don't overwhelm your reader. If you do choose to quote directly from a source, follow these guidelines. Make sure you have transcribed the original material accurately. Represent the author's ideas honestly. Quote enough of the original text to reflect the author's point accurately. Never use a standalone quotation. Always integrate the quoted material into your own sentence. Use ellipses if you need to omit a word or phrase. Make sure any omissions or changed words do not alter the meaning of the original text. And remember to include correctly formatted citations that follow the assigned style guide. Throughout your writing process, make sure that you give credit to other writers or researchers for their ideas. Make sure to allow your reader to follow up and learn more about the topic if desired. You will cite sources within the body of your paper and at the end of your paper in your bibliography. So for this assignment, you will use the APA style. So APA stands for American Psychological Association. Citing sources in the body of your paper. In-text citation, document your sources within the body of your paper. These include two vital pieces of information: the author's name and the year the source material was published. When quoting a print source directly, also include the citation, in the citation, the page number where the quoted originality appears. The page number will follow the year in the in-text citation. Page numbers are necessary only when content has been directly quoted, not when it has been summarized or paraphrased. Within a paragraph, this information may appear as part of your introduction in the material or as a parenthetical citation at the end of a sentence. The introduction to the source material includes the author's name followed by the year. So when you do a paraphrase quote, you have to have the author's name and the date. If you're going to do a direct quote, you have the quotation marks, the author's name, the date, and the page number. Then when you do your references page, this comes at the end of your, after your last page. Each of the sources you cite in your body text will appear on a references list at the end of your paper. While in-text citations provide the most basic information about the source, your references section will include additional publication details. In general, you will include the following information: the author's last name, followed by his or her middle initial, the year the source was published, the source title, For articles in periodicals, the full name of the periodical along with the volume and issue number and the pages where the article appeared. Additional information may be included for different types of sources, such as online sources. Using primary and secondary research. As you write your draft, be mindful of how you are using primary and secondary source materials to support your points. Recall that primary sources present first-hand information. Secondary sources are one step removed from primary sources. They present a writer's analysis or interpretation of primary source materials. How you balance primary and secondary source materials in your paper will depend on your topic. Using primary sources effectively. Some types of research must use primary sources extensively. Any paper that analyzes a primary source or presents the writer's own experimental research falls in this category. Any paper that analyzes a primary text or presents the writer's own experimental research falls in this category. Here are a few examples. A paper for a literature course analyzing several poems by Emily Dickinson. A paper for a political science course comparing televised speeches delivered by two presidential candidates. A paper for a communications class discussing gender biases in television commercials. So using secondary sources effectively. If you are not analyzing a text, and if it is not feasible or appropriate to conduct your own research, you will need to use secondary sources extensively. As much as possible, use secondary sources that are closely linked to primary research, such as a journal article presenting the results of the author's scientific study or a book that cites interviews and case studies. These sources are more reliable and add more value to your paper. So if you're going to use secondary sources, then you should align those secondary sources with primary sources so that your sources are reliable. Avoiding plagiarism. Your research paper draft presents your thinking about a topic, supported and developed by other people's ideas and information. It is crucial to distinguish between the two as you conduct research, as you plan your paper, and as you write. Failure to do so can lead to plagiarism. So that means that if you fail to put in proper in-text citations every time you cite uncommon knowledge, you are committing plagiarism because you are stealing other people's ideas. What exactly is plagiarism? Plagiarism is the act of misrepresenting someone else's work as your own. Sometimes a writer plagiarizes work on purpose, for instance, by purchasing an essay from a website and submitting it as your own original work. In other cases, a writer may commit accidental plagiarism due to carelessness, haste, or misunderstanding. To avoid unintentional plagiarism, understand what types of information must be cited. Understand what constitutes fair use of a source. Keep source materials and notes carefully organized, and follow guidelines for summarizing, paraphrasing, and quoting sources. When do you cite? When in doubt, cite. Any idea or fact taken from an outside source must be cited in both the body of your paper and references. The only exceptions are facts or general statements that are common knowledge. Common knowledge facts or general statements are commonly supported by and found in multiple sources. Fair use. In recent years, issues related to fair use of sources have been prevalent in popular culture. Recording artists, for example, may disagree about the extent to which one has the right to sample another music. For academic purposes, the guidelines for fair use are reasonably straightforward. Writers may quote from or paraphrase material from previously published works without formally obtaining the copyright holder's permission. Fair use means that the writer legitimately uses brief excerpts from source material to support and develop his or her own ideas. However, quoting or paraphrasing another work at excessive length, in other words, it's okay to cite little parts of other people's books, but you can't get carried away and cite half of someone's book. That would constitute plagiarism. And when you write a paper, 80% of that work should be your original analysis, and only 20% should be cited work. Otherwise, if you have less than 80% original work, that means that you're committing plagiarism. And also, if you fail to cite your work properly, it will turn up as plagiarism on your Turnitin report. So it's important that you cite your sources whenever you're citing historical facts, medical facts, scientific facts, technical facts, and any kind of numerical data and uncommon knowledge. You have to cite the source so that you don't commit plagiarism by stealing other people's ideas and making it your own. Disorganization and carelessness sometimes leads to plagiarism. For instance, a writer may be unable to provide a complete, accurate citation if he didn't record bibliographical. So that means that as you do your research, keep a complete record of where you got the information from. Your reference citation should have the author's name, the date, the article name, the publication name, journal name, date you retrieved the website, and the website address. So a writer may cut and paste a passage from a website into her paper and later forget where the material came from. A writer who procrastinates may rush through a draft, which easily leads to sloppy paraphrasing and inaccurate quotations. Any of these actions can create the appearance of plagiarism and lead to negative consequences. Carefully organizing your time and notes is the best guard against these forms of plagiarism. Maintain a detailed working bibliography and thorough notes throughout the research stage. Check original sources again to clear up any uncertainties. Allow plenty of time for writing your draft so there is no temptation to cut corners. Academic integrity. The concepts and strategies discussed in this week constitutes a larger issue known as academic integrity. You maintain your integrity as a member of an academic community by representing your work and others' work honestly, and by using other people's work in only legitimate, accepted ways. It is a point of honor taken seriously in every academic discipline and career field that you don't commit plagiarism. Academic integrity violations have serious educational and professional consequences. Even when cheating and plagiarism go undetected, they result in a student's failure to learn necessary research and writing skills. Students who are found guilty of academic integrity violations face consequences ranging from a failing grade to expulsion from the university. So therefore, key takeaways. An effective research paper focuses on the writer's ideas. The introduction and conclusion revisit the writer's thesis. The body of the paper develops the thesis and related points and information from research. Materials taken from ideas and information taken from outside sources must be cited in the body of the paper and in the references section. Materials taken from sources should be used to develop the writer's ideas. Summarizing and paraphrasing are most effective for this purpose. A summary concisely restates the main idea of a source in the writer's own words. A paraphrase restates ideas from a source using the writer's own idea and sentence structure. Direct quotations should be used sparingly. Ellipses and brackets must be used to indicate words that were omitted or changed for conciseness or grammatical correctness. Always represent material from outside sources accurately. Plagiarism has serious academic and professional consequences. To avoid accidental plagiarism, keep research materials organized. Understand guidelines for fair use and appropriate citation of sources, and review the paper to make sure these guidelines are followed. Developing a final draft of a research paper. And so this is the last step of the writing process. Revise your paper to improve organization and cohesion. Determine an appropriate style and tone for your paper. Revise to ensure that your tone is consistent. Edit your paper to ensure that language, citations, and formatting are correct. Revising your paper. It is easy to become overly focused on editorial skills such as format. These details do matter. However, when you correct your paper, first you revise for your essay structure and organization. So a good research paper is both organized and cohesive. Organization means that your argument flows logically from one point to the next. Cohesion means that the elements of your paper work together smoothly and naturally. In a cohesive research paper, information from research is smoothly integrated with the writer's ideas. So revise to improve. When you revise to improve organization, you look at the flow of ideas throughout the essay as a whole and within individual paragraphs. You check to see that your essay moves logically from the introduction to the body paragraphs to the conclusion, that each section reinforces your thesis. So you can use this checklist to make sure that you are properly revising your essay for proper organization. So at the essay level, does my introduction proceed clearly from opening to the thesis? Does each body paragraph have a clear main idea? Do the main ideas flow in a logical order? Do I need to add or revise topic sentences? Does my conclusion summarize my main idea? Does the topic sentence clearly state the main idea? Do the details in the paragraph relate to the main idea? And do I need to recast my sentences or add transitions? Revise to improve cohesion. When you revise to improve cohesion, you analyze how the parts of your paper work together. You look for anything that seems awkward or out of place. Revision may involve deleting unnecessary material or rewriting parts of the paper so that the out-of-place material fits in smoothly. In a research paper, problems with cohesion usually occur when a writer has trouble integrating source material. If facts or quotations have been awkwardly dropped into a paragraph, they distract or confuse the reader. So here is a checklist for cohesion. Does the opening of the paper clearly connect to the broader topic and thesis? Have I included support from research for each main point in the body of my paper? Have I included introductory material before my quotations? Does paraphrased and quoted material clearly serve my points? Do I need to revise parts of the paper to help the reader understand why the source is relevant? Are there any places where I have overused material from sources? Does my conclusion make sense based on the rest of the paper? Make sure you have consistent style and tone. Once you are certain that the content of your paper fulfills your purpose, you could begin to revise to improve the style and tone. And it's at this point you make sure that you don't have any first-person case I, my, we, our, or second-person case you and your. So together, your style and tone create the voice of your paper, how you come across to your readers. Style refers to the way you use language as a writer, the sentence structures you use, and the word choices you make. Tone is the attitude toward your subject and audience that you convey through your word choice. Determining appropriate style and tone. When we write a research paper, we want our tone and style to be formal. So allowing accepted writing styles vary within different disciplines, but the underlying goal is the same: to come across to your readers as a knowledgeable, authoritative guide. Writing about research is like being a tour guide who walks readers through a topic. A stuffy, overly formal guide makes readers feel put off. If your paper is too informal, it can make your readers wonder if you know what you're talking about. Extremely emotionally charged language will make you come off as crazy or unbalanced. To help prevent being overly formal or informal, determine an appropriate style and tone at the beginning of the research process. Consider your topic and audience, because these can help dictate style and tone. A good research paper comes across as appropriately academic and serious. It is best to avoid writing in first-person case, second-person case, as this can make your paper seem overly subjective and opinionated. So checklist for style. My paper avoids excessive wordiness. My sentences are varied. I avoid using first-person case. I avoid using second-person case. I use active voice. I have defined difficult words, and I have used straightforward, easy English that people would understand. And my paper states my point of view using a balanced tone, meaning that I am neither too wishy-washy and not too forceful. Note that word choice is especially an important aspect of style. So here are some points to check for word choice: vague or imprecise terms, slang, repetition of the same phrases, exclusive use of masculine pronouns or awkward use of he or she, use of language with negative connotation such as haughty or ridiculous, use of outdated or offensive terms to refer to specific ethnic, racial, or religious groups. Keeping your style consistent. As you revise your paper, make sure your style is consistent throughout. Look for instances where a word or phrase does not seem to fit with the rest of the reading. Reread your paper, read your paper aloud so that your ear can catch any mistakes you make. Line edit your paper sentence by sentence to make sure you have no mistakes in style and tone, and make sure you've gotten rid of all of your first-person case and second-person case voices, and make sure you only use third-person case for a professional as a professional tone. And now that you're done with revision, now we get to the last part of the writing process, which is editing for grammar and mechanics. So after revising your paper to address problems in content or style, you will complete one final editorial review. You will look for errors in grammar, mechanics, usage, and spelling. You will look for errors in citation and formatting. And also you could use Grammarly, you could use ChatGPT to help you, and Grammarly and ChatGPT to help you with your revision of your paper. Checklist. My paper is free of grammatical errors such as subject-verb agreement or sentence fragments. My paper is free of errors in punctuation and mechanics such as misplaced commas or incorrectly formatted source titles. My paper is free of common usage errors such as a lot and all right. My paper is free of spelling errors, and I have checked my paper for any editing errors. And within the body of my paper, each within the body of my paper, each fact or idea taken from an outside source is credited to the correct source. Each in-text citation includes the author's name, date, and page number. Each source cited in the body of my paper has a corresponding entry in the reference citation. My reference section includes a heading and double-spaced alphabetized entries. Each entry in my references section is indented on the second line and all subsequent lines. Each entry in my references section includes all of the necessary information for that source type. I have a title page, a running head, I set my margins to 1 inch, and my text is double spaced, and I've indented 5 spaces for each paragraph. So, key takeaways. Organization in a research paper means that the argument proceeds logically from the introduction to the body to the conclusion. It flows logically from one point to the next. When revising a research paper, evaluate the organization of the paper as a whole. In a cohesive research paper, the elements of the paper work together. An effective research paper uses a style and tone that is appropriate. And that's it for this particular. So I hope that from this week 8 lecture, you learn a lot about how to avoid plagiarism by properly citing your sources, and how to revise for your essay structure and for grammar after you after you write your rough draft. And remember that you can also use ChatGPT for essay revision. All you have to do is just put into the prompt, give essay feedback for grammar, essay structure, and tone. And then you would write also in the prompt, give examples of grammar errors. And then you cut and paste your essay into ChatGPT, and then you press submit, and next thing you know, ChatGPT will give you a list of what to do to correct your paper. It will also generate a list of all your mistakes. And if you are an LAPU student, you can also use Spark, the chatbot, and that will also help correct any mistakes and help you rewrite sentences. So you can also use Grammarly, the free version, and Grammarly is really great with tone. So if you have any questions and you need answers to how to do your assignments, feel free to email me at any time. And if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the Professor H Writing channel. 4 more weeks left to the class.